On which card do you have the highest balance with the highest interest on?
Maybe my Victoria's Secret card.
Do you have an active Visa, Master, Discover?
Do you like to party?
Party, party.
Oh shorty, it's your birthday.
You're a Barbie girl. It's amazing.
If you could bring me up, I'll give you a shout out in my next video, and I do a video every Friday. Teach me some swear words. What do you know for swear words in your language? What's going on, guys? Today we've got a flux core welding project, and we are going to build a rolling table, cart, craft table. It's going to be a multi-purpose use. Let's get going. Alright guys, so just off my workshop is this door here, and this is actually my wife's laundry room. So what I've done is our vacuum cleaner just crapped out, so I just installed this last week, and what that prompted me to do is I had to drywall this wall here, and I also drywalled this wall here. So things are kind of torn up in here right now, but let me show you what we're going to be working on and what this has prompted this project to do. So this countertop right here came out of my mom's house. It used to be a center island bar countertop. I want to build a rolling work surface, or like a work table, that my wife can use to like fold laundry, and she can also use it to do her crafts. And I've got some drawers that I picked up from a college that I did some work at. Let me show you those. Here are the drawers. You can see I got a few of them. I got some junk out here I've been bringing out too from doing the drywall. Look at the drawer construction. So they're constructed well, and I believe it's going to be a maple hardwood. So yeah, I think this will be kind of neat and it'll look good. So I think I'll put maybe like a row of 3 drawers across the front, and it'll have a metal frame. So I'll probably make the work surface about the height of my table here. It'll have a metal frame. We're gonna have to make it so that it is not wider than this opening here. That way, if we ever had to get that out of that room, we could take the top off and just wheel everything through. So now that you guys kind of got an idea of what we're building and how we're going to build it, now I want to show you how I arrive at how I'm going to go about it and how I'm going to do it. If this part of this doesn't interest you, just go ahead and skip ahead to when you see me cutting or welding or whatever. But for some of you guys that want to know how the thought process goes into how you know where to start building it, this is what I'm going to talk about here. This is what we're going to be building our frame out of. It is 1.5 inch angle, and it's 1/8 inch thick. This material comes from the factory in 20-foot lengths, but what I have them do, so it's easier to transport, is I have them chop this in half. So my top is 36 inches wide, but my metal frame below it is going to be 29. So overall, that's a difference of 7 inches, which means I'm going to have an overhang of 3.5 inches on each side. Now that covers our width, but for length, I'm going to do 60 inches. Why'd I go with 60 and not that 7-inch difference? I'll show you. Each of these pieces are 10 feet long, so half of that is 5 feet. 5 feet is also 60 inches. So it'll just minimize the amount of waste that I'll be taking off this. And that'll give me overall, from 74 to 60, that'll give me 14 inches. And I might put that 14 inches all on one side, so it's hung over on one side, so you could actually sit down, pull a stool up to it, and your legs would go right up underneath it without bumping. So our frame we're going to build at 29 by 60. I want it 36 inches tall off the floor, but we also got to subtract for our wheels, which is about 5 inches. And you can see that's what I have over here on this workbench here. I've just got all wheels, I can roll it around. Those measure 5 inches. So that adds another 5 inches to your height. Then the next thing I do is draw myself out a little sketch. That way I can kind of visually see what I'm building and how many pieces I need to build. So these simulate the drawers that we talked about, and it's also going to need a piece coming across underneath the drawers. Recognize this right here? That is those drawers that I was just showing you. So I use this all the time. You can see this is my catch-all. This is where I'll keep all my supplies. We'll start right off. I know I need 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the back one, plus 1 under here, so there's 5. So we'll cut 5 at 60 right off. Taking just a few extra minutes in the very beginning to kind of lay things out and plan it out like this is going to save you a little bit of money on the other end too, because you're not going to have as much waste. You don't, you know, if you have a bunch of 1-foot pieces left over, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of use for that. So I tried to maximize the material that I have and minimize the number of cuts. So let's get going. For this, I'm going to be using my 15-inch Evolution. It is model S380 CPS. I know you guys always ask, so I wanted to show it to you. But the one little tip, now remember I said they cut these to 10 feet. They originally come in a 20-foot length, this size. So don't take for granted that because the metal shop cut it for you, that they actually did a good job. You want to verify that. I've actually seen where the metal shop cuts it and the cut is crooked. So here they did a good job, but you don't want to go, you know, taking it for granted and then, you know, measure out your stuff and then make your cut and then realize that they had made a crooked cut on this end. Now your piece won't be long enough. So just double check everything before you start. It'll save you a lot of aggravation potentially in the end. I personally like to use these silver streaks. They didn't have these when I started metal fabrication. All we used was a soapstone, but these make it real nice because it works like a mechanical pencil. It's got a little, you pull this cap off on the end, you can spin it around, sharpen your pencil. It just works really good. And if you want to know about any of the tools that I'm using during any of this, you can just check. I'll have links down below to all of it. And check that out, guys. Burr free. No heat in it whatsoever. That's why I love this tool so much. And now without moving anything, we can come right over to this side and measure out 5 feet or 60 inches again. That easy. Loosen up our clamp, slide it over, check it to make sure that our blade is going to just cut right at that line, snug her down. That easy. Check that out, guys. That's fresh off the saw and I grabbed it by hand. If you cut this with, you know, like a grinder and a cutoff wheel, you wouldn't be able to do that. So that's the great part about this saw. Not only does it do a nice clean cut, it keeps the material cool. You don't have hot molten sparks flying through your shop and you lessen the chance of burning down your workshop, you know. How you put the material in this saw actually matters as far as longevity of your blade. I talk about that in last week's episode. I'll put a link up above if you guys want to check that out, but it does matter. You will get a longer life out of it if you put the material in a certain way versus a different way, and we talk about it in that other episode. I got a few more to cut. Let's get going. Another little tip that'll save time is I'll measure both pieces right now, so I'm not taking the tape out twice. So you can see my little marks right here. So it's from that mark it's 60 inches that way, and from that mark it's 60 inches that way. So the piece right here, that's the scrap. I'll give you a close-up on how I set that up. Now you have to account for the kerf of the blade. Remember, so this is the piece I'm keeping, so the blade needs to be on this side of the line, not that side of the line. So I want to keep just a little bit of this white line showing on that piece. Right there, that's what we want. Looking right down that blade, you see how we can just see that line? That's what we want. So we got the 60s done. So now we need to work on the 31s. That's the height. So we got 1, 2.
Your call is very important to us. Please
line. You'll be transferred to the next available agent.
Hi, this is Ken from Mig Welding Services. How are you doing today?
Not bad, but it's still early.
Here I do see that you're one of our good consumer. You never miss any payments. Is that right?
If I lie to you, will I get in trouble?
How much balance you owe collectively?
All together on all my cards, probably close to 9.
On which card do you have the highest balance with the highest interest on?
Maybe my Victoria's Secret card.
Do you have an active Visa, Master, Discover, American Express with the highest balance on?
Well, before we get too far into that, do you like to party?
Party, party. Oh boy, come on, let's go. Party.
Like it's your birthday, you go shorty.
In your Barbie roll.
Go shorty, it's your birthday.
You're a Barbie girl. Little kid. You're so amazing.
Okay, so hey, teach me some swear words. What do you know for swear words in your language?
Dwight.
Say, how do I say that? Say it again.
Say banjo.
Ban. What is that?
That means sister.
Sister.
That.
Do you watch YouTube at all?
Yeah, I do.
I got a YouTube channel. Are you in front of a computer? Type in my name. Check me out. Type in my name. Subscribe to me.
What's your name?
Brandon. Okay, Brandon. Lund, Lund, and it might even come up Brandon Lund Welding.
Are you sure your name is?
My last name's a bad word in another country, I hear.
It comes with a penis.
see, but that is my last name. Everybody comments on that, but that's my last name. I love messing with these guys. If you could bring me up, I'll give you a shout out in my next video, and I do a video every Friday. But you gotta subscribe to me.
And what do you do on the beach?
I weld. I'm a welder.
What?
I make stuff. I weld stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you see it?
What kind of stuff?
I make all kinds of stuff. You see it?
Actually, internet is not working, sir. That's the reason when I'll go at home, I'll look up your name and I'll subscribe the channel.
All right.
And click the bell icon as well.
I want you to say thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Say that.
Thank you for liking, commenting, and what?
Subscribing. That was nice of him to do our outro, huh, guys? You gotta have fun. No matter what you're doing, make sure you're always having fun. Don't take things too serious in life. As you get older, you'll realize life is too short to be getting all wound up about silly things. Normally, back in the day, I'd get so angry, because obviously that guy was a scammer. I'd get so angry at that guy. I don't get angry anymore. Now I just play into it, and now I just wasted his time. So maybe that's less time he'll have to scam some older person or someone else who will buy into it. So just enjoy life, guys. Have fun and enjoy it. That's what life's about. And now I'm going to be putting on the legs, and I'm going to build them the same way. I'm going to run the corner piece right up inside so it overhangs it, and then down for the inside I'll run it to the inside, something like that. So we're going to want to make this piece 31 inches. So now I got all 4 of those cut, and now I'm going to start cutting the 29. So we're going to need one there, there, and there. So we need 4 of those. So I've got our rough shape laid out. That's our 29, that's our 60. And now we're going to start putting this together and get ready to weld. Now, you can just do it just like this, clamp it together, right tight in the corner, weld it right here, here, and then come up. But you can see what that does is that leaves a little bit of a gap there. Yeah, we could fill that, no problem, but it also gives me an opportunity to show you how to cope out the corners. It's called coping them out. But it's just good to know. Doesn't mean you have to do it for this, but I figured I'd just show you another way of doing something. So I've got this piece lined up in the corner where it needs to be. this piece needs to come out. So it needs to have a line up here and then over, and this little square piece has to come out, and we're going to do that with an angle grinder. And to get that straight line, you can use pretty much any type of framing square, metal square, whatever trips your trigger, whatever gets you a straight line. And then we'll cut that out. You can even do that with a plasma cutter if you wanted. And we'll have to do that here, here, there, and there. So you'll have to do that 4 times, and then this will fit up nice. So I've got this chucked up into my vise so I can get to it real good. And you can see I got it all marked out. And I'm going to use this right here, which is a metal cutting diamond cutoff disc. This is made by a company called Graph Black. I'll have links for that down in the description below. But I really like this tool as to opposed to this type of diamond cutoff wheel. And the reason for that is a lot of people claim that these are jumpy. And the reason these are jumpy is because they have these segments in between. These segments keep the blade cool. Well, this one is a continuous rim with just a few cooling holes along the way. I really like this one better because it's just smoother and easier to use. So that's my choice of tool for cutting out these copes or notches. Not too shabby, huh? Yeah, and that is our coped out joint. I'll show you how that fits. Yeah, just like that. Now you can see how that's flush all the way around. Weld that up. Be real easy to make that look nice. So. Another easy way to lay these out is to just come back 1.5 inches. This is 1.5 inch angle iron. You don't really need to know anything else other than just come back 1.5 inches, and that's the piece you take out. It's that simple. Always double check your measurements. It's a lot easier to measure twice and cut once than it is to add back on. So I got that side all notched out. Now I just got to do this side. Piece of cake. You know, this doesn't have to be a laundry room cart either, guys. You know what I mean? This just happens to be like a laundry cart craft table for my wife. But you guys could use this for a rolling workbench or whatever it is you wanted to do with it, you know. This is another good beginner welding project also to take on. If you guys don't have a workbench, this would be a great project to take on because, you know, if you got a bad weld on it, probably not going to hurt anybody. It's going to be in your workshop, so you'll probably be okay. We all need a good workbench, and this would be a nice workbench to build. Another great thing about those cutting discs is you don't have all that abrasive dust that you get off an abrasive wheel all through your workshop. You're not breathing in that garbage. That stuff is nasty. So it's also a lot cleaner in your workshop. You don't have that stuff to deal with. Now I'm just going to take it over to the bench grinder, clean up this a little bit, and we'll be done. Weld this up, I'm going to be using my Hobart Handler 140. And to set this up, we're just going to go to the chart on the inside of the door. Right now I'm using 30 thousandths flux core wire. And we are welding steel. We are using flux core, no shielding gas required, 30 thousandths wire. And we are at 1/8 of an inch metal is what we're using. And if we look at our handy material thickness gauge, we'll see that 1/8 of an inch is roughly 125 thousandths. Going back to our chart, we will see that 105 thousandths and 135, it's right in between that. So 3 and 40 or 3 and 45. So we're going to run right around 3 and 45, right in that general vicinity. We'll set this for 3. Put this back to right around 40, 45, right around there. And that'll be a good starting point. Now, I wanted to point out just a couple technical, minute things when you reference this stuff. So you have Mig welder, which is referring to a bare wire with a gas. Okay, so that's MIG. Then you have flux core, which is using flux core wire, and it doesn't require gas. You can also do what's called dual shield, which is when you use a flux core wire and you do gas with it. Well, we're not doing that. That's on structural jobs, you'll see that. But for our general purposes here, we're either using MIG, which is a bare wire with gas, or flux core, which is self-shielded wire. I get asked a lot why I don't use nozzle on the end of this. When you MIG weld, you would have that on the end, and what this does is inside here, you see these little tiny holes? Inside there, that's where the gas, the shielding gas, comes out from. This nozzle on the end is what directs the gas out the tip to shield your weld puddle. Well, flux core is self-shielded, so they make a piece that slips on here. It's like a plastic or a heat-resistant plastic that goes on over this. Its only purpose is to keep you from touching any of this stuff to your metal, because when you pull the trigger on the gun, this will become energized. It wouldn't normally be energized because you would have this over it, but when you take it off, this becomes electrified. So you just have to be careful that you don't touch any part of this onto your workpiece if you're going to do this. I don't run a nozzle for flux core when I do flux core welding because I like the ability to be able to see real good. You just make sure you don't touch that to the metal and you'll be all set. A rule of thumb when you put stuff together is you never fully weld it. Just tack weld until you know you got everything perfect. There, that's nice. Now it does make a difference on which polarity you use. If you're using bare MIG wire or you're using self-shielded flux core wire. So read your machine's manual, because a lot of machines have ended up on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist because the person didn't have it wired up right and they thought their welder was bad. So, or they thought they weren't a good welder and they couldn't figure it out. So, just doing small tacks. If it really matters and it's mission critical, you can run a tape measure corner to corner this way and then corner to corner the other way and make sure the measurements are the exact same. For us, the measurements are just about perfect and close enough. It's starting to get a little bit smoky in here. I'm going to turn on my $60 DIY welding fume extractor. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up above. But yeah, it works really good pulling fumes out of the workshop. Hold it right over the work that you're doing, the smoke comes right up and right outside. Now the next thing we got to start working on is we got to get the legs on it. So we'll tack those on and get those into place. Nice and square. There we go. Do that 3 more times. So we got tacks on the inside. That keeps it from like hinging. So we got tacks on the inside. We got some little short welds on the outside. You know, when you weld too much, it tends to pull things around anyways. So you kind of got to check it as you go. Just because it's, you know, it's perfect now, but when I start welding, this thing's going to start pulling all around. So you're just going to have to kind of check it as you go. So I'm going to have these, and again, remember, this is, we're doing the bottom, we're working on the bottom, so I'm going to have these welded on just like this. So in order for that to work right, we're going to have to shorten them up. See how right there, trying to fit inside to inside? That's just not going to do it. So we got to take just a little bit off both of these so we can make that happen. We're going to have to take off a little bit off these too, about almost 1/4 of an inch. So let me do that right now and then we'll get it welded up. We're gaining on it, guys. Now all I gotta do is put that spreader across there. Same thing on the back. And then we can check it, make sure it's all square. Then once it's all square, we can weld it all completely out and then start framing it up for these, flip it over and start framing it for these drawers. It's gonna be a nice little, this is gonna be a nice little unit. And that's all there is to it, guys. I think we're gonna finish off right here. The video's already getting a little long. Come back next Friday. We'll finish all of this up. We'll get those drawers in it, we'll get a coat of paint on it, and we'll get the top on it, get the wheels on it, get it all finished up. Got some storage ideas that could probably come in handy for you guys if you decide to make this into a workbench or, you know, rolling workbench or something like that. So I want to thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. New videos every Friday. Please consider subscribing. Hit the bell notification. Until next week, guys, I will see you then. Take care. Stay safe. And as my boy says,
thank you for liking, commenting, and what?
subscribing.